Hi, I'm Todd Wente, and this is the Daily 180 180 seconds of motivation and inspiration intended to help you take action and to improve your life. This is episode 250 of the Daily 180, and we're here in my office again. I've been spending a lot of time here lately. And today we're going to be continuing our series on tempering as it revolves around some of the different facets. Today, we're talking about the spiritual facet. It may seem a little strange to be talking about the spiritual facet as one of the last pieces instead of one of the earlier pieces, but it just kind of made sense as we were going through the process. Keep in mind, as we've been talking about tempering, we're talking about taking an action that may seem counterintuitive to the things that we've been doing up to this point in time, and hoping that that will give us some kind of increased resilience or increased strength to be able to make sure that things continue to move forward in the way that we want. When we talk about tempering in the spiritual aspect, I can't help but remember the first times that I started becoming aware that in my own spiritual discipline, there were hundreds of little tiny things that needed to be done on a regular basis. And I talk about them as needing to be done. I'm not talking about a checklist to be looked at and things checked off. And we say, okay, I'm doing good spiritually if I'm doing all of these things. I'm not doing good spiritually if I'm not doing all of these things. But rather from a standpoint of saying, this is a way that I can expand my spirituality. This is a way that I can expand, and all a myriad of different kinds of choices and opportunities that are around us all the time that would allow us to deepen our level of my level. I'll talk about my level of spiritual connection and commitment. This can be a little bit overwhelming, especially for somebody like me who has a tendency to be driven a little bit by perfectionism and by this unrealistic pursuit of perfect in an imperfect world. So, as I looked at all of those kinds of things, I have to admit, on many occasions in my life, I have found myself working into such a frenzy, being built up and spun and twisting myself around unrealistic expectations that make it almost impossible for me to enjoy any of the journey that I'm on. And really, when we're talking about the spiritual facet, it really should be driven by joy, by enjoying and appreciating all of the magnificent things that are around us. A beautiful sunrise, like I'm enjoying through my office window this morning as I'm getting going on my day, should fill me with joy. But sometimes, because I'm worried so much about all of the little pieces along the way, I miss it. I completely miss it. And as a result, I may get things done, but I'm not having very much joy as I'm going through the process. So, how do we temper that? Well, for myself, what I've been trying to do over the last little while, and I offer this as a suggestion, not necessarily as a demand or as a requirement or even as an injunction, but merely as a suggestion and something to think about because it's something that I'm working on, it's something that I'm thinking about, and that is that I consider, just consider the possibility of simplifying the way that I look at things. Instead of looking at all of the tiny little details, perhaps I would be better to look at the larger pictures and say to myself, is there something in this idea of spirituality that I can tackle today that will fill me with more joy? Instead of looking at tiny little details that need to be accomplished, because if I don't, I'm missing out on stuff, even in my spiritual discipline, maybe I can focus on one or two things and make sure that those one or two things are consistently part of my spiritual journey and let the other things pop up as they may. As I've tried to do this over the last little while, I have found that there has been increased joy in my life. I have felt like I have had greater connection and greater ability to connect with other people and with what I ascribe to be the divine influence in my own life. That's really what spirituality is all about, is learning to be more in harmony with others and with the divinity that is all around us. I know for myself, as I have tried to simplify my perspective on my spiritual discipline, I have found tremendous power coming into me. Power which allows me to take care of a lot of the smaller things in a much more calm and methodical manner, but also a calmness which has allowed me to be aware of opportunities when they show up to increase joy in my own life and in the lives of others. So, if we want to temper our spiritual discipline a little bit, maybe the best thing to do is to simplify it rather than complicate it. Look at it on its lowest possible level or its largest possible impacts rather than the tiny little details that we think are so much a part of what it means to grow spiritually. If this works for you, hopefully, then you can use it. If not, maybe one of the other ideas that we've been sharing along the way in the Daily 180 will be more useful for you. In the meantime, I am Todd Wente. This has been the Daily 180. If you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up, give us a share. Hey, we'd love to have you subscribe and join us on the rest of the journey because we've got a lot more journey to cover. We're only at episode 250, so I plan to live a lot longer if we're doing these on a daily or semi-daily basis. We got a lot more ground to cover. Uh, in the meantime, my name is Todd Wente. If you're using this, go forth and conquer. Have a magnificent day. We'll see you next time on the Daily 180.